Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. And before we start with our broadcast, some breaking news coming in from West Asia. Speculation grows over the fate of Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas chief. Israeli cabinet has been told that Hamas leader has been killed. Israeli defense minister tweeted, and I'm quoting from it, "We will reach every terrorist and eliminate them." The Israeli military is investigating if one of the 3 individuals killed by Israeli defense forces in Gaza is Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar. Known as the mastermind behind the October 7th attack of last year on Israel, Sinwar has long been the prime target for Israeli forces in Gaza. If confirmed, his death will represent a significant victory for Israel and a major blow to Hamas. Reports indicate that the IDF troops fired on a group of armed fighters on the ground floor of a building, and upon entering, they found one of the dead men bore a striking resemblance to Sinwar. Speculation around Sinwar's death quickly spread online, and Israeli military officials say that they are still working to confirm the identity of the body through DNA and fingerprint evidence. The IDF also clarified that no hostages were present in the area. Israeli media reports that the incident in question took place on Wednesday and that the IDF troops operating in the area did not know that Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was there. Troops spotted several fighters enter a building and a strike was ordered against it, which then collapsed the structure. Only after Israeli soldiers arrived to inspect the damage did they realize that one of the killed strongly resembled Sinwar. Earlier, it was reported that Sinwar is using hostages as human shields, as said by Israel. There have been quite a few times when the IDF came close to locating Sinwar, but before they could reach, the Hamas leader had changed his position. Sinwar's possible death follows months of high-profile assassinations of key figures linked to Hamas and other hostile groups seen by Israel. As one of Israel's most wanted targets, Sinwar is believed to have been hiding in the extensive networks of tunnel that Hamas has built beneath Gaza. His elimination will bolster Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's position and also validate the IDF's targeted operations against Hamas leadership. Sinwar became the Iran-backed group's new leader after the killing of its former political chief, Ismail Haniyeh, just this July. Hamas and Iran blame Israel for Haniyeh's killing, but Israel has not commented on it. With Hamas hugely weakened more than a year into the Gaza war, Sinwar's death, if confirmed, could definitely deal a huge blow to the organization. Israel entered into a war with Hamas after the death of about 1,200 people, mostly civilians, on October 7th last year. And since then, Israel's retaliatory campaign in Gaza has killed more than 42,000 people, majority of them civilians, being women and children. According to data from the health ministry in Hamas's run territory, the UN considers this as reliable. Let's now shift focus to US politics. Nobody was expecting it to go smoothly when Kamala Harris sat down with Fox News. It was hostile from the word go, and before we analyze what this means for the race, let's get you some excerpts.
Bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising,
okay,
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions...
I'm not finished. We have
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
Now, a large chunk of the interview was focused on illegal immigration. Harris was never appointed as the border czar, as the Republicans claim. Back in 2021, the Biden administration did appoint Harris to deal with the root cause of immigration. And illegal immigration and the border definitely came in the purview of that. In the 3.5 years of being the vice president, Harris has visited the southern border twice, the latest being in the heat of the campaign that was last month. Now, the interview then moved to other issues like the economy and the biggest threat plaguing America. But there was one topic where Harris seemed visibly angry. That was democracy.
In fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people. Democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
The interview came just after Harris addressed a rally in battleground state of Pennsylvania, her 12th visit this year. She was joined by over 100 Republicans. Her pitch was clear: Democrat or a Republican, vote for Harris.
No matter your party, no matter who you voted for last time, there is a place for you in this campaign. The coalition we have built has room for everyone who is ready to turn the page on the chaos and instability of Donald Trump.
If Kamala Harris is entering uncharted territory, Donald Trump isn't far behind. He first sat down at the Black Journalists Convention in Chicago, then called himself the father of IVF to an all-female audience in Georgia, and now in Florida, he attended a town hall hosted by America's largest Spanish TV network. That's blacks, women, and Latinos. 3 sections of American society that have mostly voted for the Democrats. But this time, Trump is coming for them.
The African-American population and the Hispanic population in particular are losing jobs now because millions of people are coming in. So they're coming in, but they're also coming in largely, and tremendous numbers coming in out of mental institutions.
Speaking about immigrants, Trump's claim of Haitians eating dogs and cats in Ohio came up. He was directly asked about it, and well, he said this.
This was just reported. I was just saying what was reported. That's been reported. And eating other things, too, that they're not supposed to be. But this is, all I do is report. I was there, I'm going to be there, and we're going to take a look, and I'll give you a full report when I do. But that's been in the newspapers and reported pretty broadly.
The thing is, Trump and his candid style is actually working within Hispanic and Black American circles. Recent pollings are testament to that. One New York Times and CNN poll indicated that Harris had 78% support among black voters. Democrats have usually enjoyed around 90% of support in the last few elections. In fact, men account for most of this drop-off. And to get us some perspective, Paul Sarasic is joining us live from Washington, D.C. He's a professor of politics and international relations at Youngstown State University in Ohio, and also an adjunct fellow at the Hudson Institute. Professor, good to see you. Thanks for waiting patiently.
Good to be here.
You know, just ahead of the interview, I spoke to a political analyst from Philadelphia, and he had said something very interesting, that where we stand right now in the campaign, that's less than 20 days from the US election date, people are still getting to know Kamala Harris. I want to ask you this: do you agree with that assessment? And also, after this interview, do you think the voters actually know Kamala Harris?
Well, I do think they're getting to know her, but you know, one of the problems with being vice president and running for president, and others have had this problem. You know, Al Gore back in 2000 had the same problem, is that when you're vice president, you don't really have all the power. You really don't have very much power at all under our Constitution. You get to break ties in the Senate. So although we know the president, we don't always know the vice president that well. And when Kamala Harris ran for president in 2020, she didn't really stay in the race very long. She didn't last very long. So voters didn't get a chance to know who she was. Also, she wasn't in the primary this time. It was President Joe Biden who at that time was running for re-election, and he's the one that stood before the Democratic voters. Then he withdraws, and she comes in kind of really at the last minute. So we've never really seen a situation like this. And yeah, I think, she is pretty still sort of unknown to voters. She hasn't been quite defined yet. This choice to be on Fox News was very, very interesting. And I don't think it's a choice she would have made a few weeks ago when her campaign was doing better. What this seems to symbolize is that, she kind of thinks her campaign is in trouble. So she's going on, conservative media in the United States, a place that she knows is going to be hostile, to try to build up, her credibility, build up information about her for voters.
Right. So if Kamala Harris is going to Fox News, Donald Trump is also going to uncharted territories. We just brought a report how he's, in a way, wooing the black voters and the Latinos and the women. In fact, I have a poll by New York Times and Siena College that actually suggests that Trump has the support of black and Latino voters much more than any Republican nominee since the year 1964, Professor. So I want to ask you, why do we see a drop in Kamala Harris's support when it comes to these two sections of American society, and why is there a rise when it comes to Donald Trump?
Well, something very fascinating is going on in U.S. politics, and it's been going on for really the past 8 years. Political scientists argue about this a little bit, but I feel pretty strongly that what we're going through is a political realignment. And we haven't had a realignment in the United States since the late 1920s, early 1930s. So it's been a long time. And what we mean by realignment is that different groups are moving around between the parties. And what we saw in 2016 was white working class voters who had traditionally been Democrats, in part because the Democratic Party had supported labor, and these were union members. But they came over in droves to the Republican Party in 2016, but it was mainly white working class voters. Now what we're seeing are working class voters, and we define that as voters without a college degree, that non-white working class voters are now starting to move into the Republican Party. So this is really, really a change, and it makes the election hard to predict, actually, because we don't know who's going to vote for who this time. And it really is, a stunning change in U.S. politics.
Political realignment, Professor, I have to say you've put it perfectly. Thank you so much for joining us here on WION and getting us your insights.
Thank you.
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris offer starkly different solutions to America's housing crisis. With housing affordability at the center of this debate, we'll break down what each candidate is promising and how it could impact millions of Americans. Take a look.
In the ongoing battle over America's housing crisis, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump present sharply contrasting plans. Vice President Harris has proposed a $25,000 grant for first-time home buyers and a long-term strategy to build 3 million affordable homes. Her plan seeks to fund these initiatives by taxing the ultra-wealthy and curbing institutional investors, driving up housing prices. On the other hand, Donald Trump's plan focuses on deregulating housing markets and encouraging private sector growth. He proposes cutting red tape for developers to spur housing construction, arguing that a free market approach will naturally increase housing supply and affordability. But what does America's middle class want?
We don't have lavish, outlandish things. We don't go on crazy vacations. We need groceries and our house payment and our car payment and our childcare payment, and that's all we can afford right now.
Housing prices across the US have increased by 40% since 2020, putting immense pressure on home buyers. Kamala Harris's plan offers financial support to those struggling to enter the housing market.
And by the end of my first term, we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class.
The proposal also targets institutional investors whose large-scale purchasing of homes has contributed to price hikes. Harris is pushing for taxes on ultra-wealthy individuals to fund the construction of 3 million affordable homes over the next decade, hoping to create long-term housing solutions while easing the pressure on home prices. Meanwhile, Trump advocates for fewer regulations, promising to streamline housing development processes. He argues that loosening government oversight will allow the private sector to boost housing supply, reduce costs, and address the affordability crisis. Trump also aims to streamline zoning laws and reduce environmental reviews, which he believes are hindering construction projects and driving up costs. As the 2024 race heats up, housing affordability remains a top concern for voters. With Donald Trump pushing for deregulation and Kamala Harris focusing on direct financial support for home buyers, the future of American housing policy could take two very different paths. Business Report WION World is One.
With less than 20 days to go for elections in the US, you will hear a lot of bickering. But you can rely on us to strain the nuance from the noise. Reproductive rights is an important issue this time, and you should hear what Donald Trump called himself in a Fox News town hall and why his rival Kamala Harris found it bizarre. We are calling this segment He Said, She Said.
Oh, I want to talk about IVF. I'm the father.
You don't hear that every day.
I'm the father of IVF. And we really are the party for IVF. We want fertilization, and it's all the way. And the Democrats tried to attack us on it, and we're out there on IVF even more than them. So we're totally in favor of it.
I found it to be quite bizarre. Actually, he called himself the father of IVF. And if what he meant is taking responsibility, well, then, yeah, he should take responsibility for the fact that 1 in 3 women in America lives in a Trump abortion ban state.
We're now shifting focus to Moldova. The country votes on Sunday in the first round of a landmark presidential election. The vote and the elected candidate could either pave the way for Moldova to become part of the EU bloc or see the Eastern European nation pulled back into Russia's orbit. On the campaign trail, the incumbent and pro-EU candidate Maia Sandu's biggest focus is telling citizens that the fate of the country will rest on this vote. A victory for the pro-Western government would be a blow for Moscow's influence in the region, but would also increase pressure on Brussels to move ahead with the accession process despite serious practical concerns.
The European Union is first and foremost a project of peace, and this is what we have to explain to those around us. All Moldovans want our communities to be better equipped to have basic living conditions. With EU support, we can do things much faster.
Moldova's gravitation towards the West has increased in recent years, with the war in Ukraine raging just across the border. Officials warn that Russian intelligence is actively trying to disrupt the EU membership referendum. A report says that over $15 million in Russian funds have been funneled into the bank accounts of more than 130,000 Moldovan citizens in the lead up to the election. The US has stepped in to take on the perceived Russian offensive.
Today, I'm here to reaffirm that the United States and its allies stand shoulder to shoulder with all Moldovans in their efforts to uphold the integrity and the security of their elections. The U.S. government and the government of Moldova have worked hand in hand to expose Russian influence efforts and sanction those involved.
Moldova's accession talks with the EU began in June this year, moving forward in the process at the same time as neighboring Ukraine. However, the country faces significant hurdles to actually being admitted to 27-country bloc. Sandu and her ministers say that the referendum to enshrine Moldova's European dream in the constitution will prevent future governments from undermining its westward trajectory. We are going across to Sri Lanka now. Nearly a week after nominations closed for the November 14th parliamentary polls in Sri Lanka, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa is insisting that he has not retired from politics but has only stepped away temporarily. Last Friday, the Rajapaksa's party, the Sri Lanka SLPP had released a candidate list that did not have the senior Rajapaksas, including Mahinda, his brother, former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, former Irrigation Minister Chamal Rajapaksa and former Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa. Now, Mahinda's son, Namal Rajapaksa, Cabinet Minister in Gotabaya's ousted administration, was there, but only on the party's national list. And that includes names of members to be nominated for extra seats the party may secure, based on its share of votes polled. But speaking to journalists in Colombo on Thursday, Mahinda Rajapaksa asserted that politicians never retire from politics. And as for his decision not to contest the upcoming parliamentary elections, he claimed that it was only a temporary move. The latest statement by a senior Rajapaksa clan member indicates that their decision to step back from the elections has more to do with the September 2024 election results, in which Mahinda's son, Namal Rajapaksa, came fourth in the race for presidency, getting less than 3% of the total votes. The results marked a huge fall for the Rajapaksa clan that dominated the cabinet in Sri Lankan administrations for years, with several family members holding key positions in the government. Now, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party of former Prime Minister Imran Khan has announced that it will hold a country-wide protest against the proposed constitutional amendment bill tomorrow. The announcement comes a day after the Pakistan People's Party, that's PPP, and Jamaat Ulama-e-Islam Fazl reportedly reached a consensus on the joint draft of the bill. Among other things, the bill aims to set up a federal constitutional court and fix the tenure of the Chief Justice of Pakistan to 3 years. PTI's political committee in a meeting resolved to take every possible step to resist the bill in both houses of the parliament. It directed all regional and local organizations associated with the party to hold peaceful demonstrations outside district headquarters after the Friday prayers. It is being reported that the government wants to pass the amendment this week. The Chief Justice of Pakistan, Qazi Faiz Isa, is set to retire on October 25th. Justice Syed Mansoor Ali Shah is next in line to become the top judge. According to reports, a section within the government has expressed apprehensions that the results of the 2024 general elections may be tossed out after the retirement of the CJP Isa. Now, last month, the coalition government failed to even table the amendments in the parliament after it fell short of the required two-thirds majority. Now, one of the incoming Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto's key campaign promises was providing free meals to all pregnant women and children across the world's fourth most populous country. Trials and pilot programs are being conducted in larger cities ahead of Prabowo's taking office on the 20th of October. In the West Java province, activity around the kitchen serving fresh meals begins well before dawn. A single kitchen here employs around 50 people as cooks, food suppliers, drivers and dishwashers. Some 3,300 meals are made for 20 schools every day. A certified nutritionist will design the menu on a monthly basis, and school employees are helping to track how the meals affect the height and weight of the students, who usually sit cross-legged on the floor to eat out of segmented trays.
I'm happy because I get nutritious food, milk and fruits, so I'm excited to go to school.
Shakila likes to eat, and she has also gained weight. Now she likes milk too. Unlike before when she rarely ate vegetables and didn't really like it. Now she likes it. She also wants milk, unlike before when she rarely consumed it.
But not everyone has welcomed the program, rather. Economists and rating agencies have voiced concerns that it may reverse Indonesia's recent hard-won reputation of fiscal prudence. The program is going to cost the exchequer $28 billion, Skeptics have pointed out the challenge of reaching and serving 82 million children across the 17,000 islands of the country. And the country's National Development Planning Agency estimates that when in full swing, the initiative might cost Indonesian taxpayers at least $12 billion a year. That's a 5.5% of the country's total expenditure for 2024. $4.6 billion have been earmarked for the first year.
The main challenge is the management of governance, because the various stakeholders involved aren't just from the process of food ingredients to cooking. There's imports as well, meaning that there are a lot of parties involved. Therefore, the implementation must be monitored and evaluated. With a very diverse community context and varied geographies, it's impossible for one mechanism for the free nutritious meal program to be established for all regions.
And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta. Goodbye.
Concerns and rumors circulate in Cameroon over President Paul Biya's public absence and deteriorating health. Government bans reports on president's health. Biya has ruled Cameroon for more than 4 decades, making him the oldest leader in the world. Bishops of the Accra Archdiocese, alongside thousands of Catholic parishioners, unite in their call for stronger environmental protections and an end to illegal mining, or galamsey, which has ravaged Ghana's water bodies and ecosystems. And Nigeria's self-proclaimed twins capital of the world, Igbo Ora, holds its annual festival to celebrate the town's unusually high incidence of multiple births. That's this week on World of Africa at these times on WION. World is One.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at yowon.com.
What the?
As Joker 2 fails miserably at the box office, we tell you how the movie might impact DC's future. Find some lesser-known facts about Jigra star Alia Bhatt. And decode the mystery behind The Simpsons predictions. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on